I actually had a kid reach out to me on, I think it was Twitter, and he was asking me, he was like, hey, like I'm thinking about next play. What do you think about it? And I was like, dude, absolutely do it. Like I can show whatever this stuff from this. And so like, I don't know, anybody that's thinking to do you, I mean, like, like do it. You learn a lot more than just how to get recruited.
Yeah.
It helps you build a brand, like build yourself. You're definitely held accountable in all your stuff. I mean, there's weekly calls, there's weekly forms you have to fill out. There's like a win for the week, which is something we do. You have to fill out your next play, which is what you're doing next week. There's always the next play. They're making sure you're doing conditioning. They want proof. Like they're not just asking you. Like you have to actually submit stuff, like showing them. But like if you don't, it gets hard to stay focused if you're not doing the work. You kind of walk me through like the platform and all the lessons and stuff, and I was like, oh, this is like exactly what I need, like how to reach out to coaches, what to say. And so I was like, this isn't like other people that like reach out for you, like or do stuff, or like there's like a basic format, they send 1,000 emails to random code. Like it isn't like it can work, but like it doesn't. And so this really helps like you learn how to do it and like learn how to problem solve and do different stuff and like become like you don't only gain like scholarships and stuff, like recruitment knowledge through it. Like you become a businessman.
Super excited to have Mr. Narci Wickley here. Really incredible story of someone who started with very little exposure and comes from a small school and turned it into a D1 offer. Really inspirational story, and I'm excited to allow him to share it here. But Narci, quick, share with us your class, your name, your school, position, all that fun stuff.
I'm a 2024. I play edge or D end. I go to Alamo Heights High School, which is in San Antonio. We're a 5A D2 school, so smaller end of the 5A.
Awesome, man. Cool. And so walk me through a little bit of where you were at in the recruiting process when we first met.
Didn't really have any offers, didn't have a lot of traction. Had talked to some schools my sophomore year, had gone to some camps. That was all good and fun. But junior year, didn't really like talk to many people. I wasn't focused, but I just had a lot going on, I guess. It was just a little harder to put all my focus into it. And so then senior year comes around. It's kind of my last shot. So didn't really have a lot of traction or offers.
And so when did you make the decision to say, like, I need to get on this recruiting process? I need to start doing something here.
I guess I have a friend, Jackson Hildebrand, who he had committed to tech, and so he had kind of gone through the recruiting process, and so he'd committed and he was leaving for the spring semester. And so I was like, shoot, like there's already guys leaving for the spring semester, like if I really want to do this, like I got to get it done. And so talked to my parents about it. They were on board. My mom had found out about your program a couple months earlier, so she'd given me the book, hadn't really looked at it much, just whatever, had stuff going on. But then she was like, what about that? And so I was like, oh, okay, like I'll look into it. Kind of read a few pages, was like, all right, like this seems whatever, and then agreed to try it out.
What were some of the things that really worked for you when it came to the recruit, like when it came to outreach and DMs and using social media? What were some of the things that you did that led to success for you?
With outreach, I would say the thing that led to most success for me was definitely Twitter. I don't know, you follow a coach and like 10 more coaches pop down with someone you can follow. Like you can follow them. There's lists you can find of coaches. Like I would follow as many coaches as you can. Try to get those. And if they follow you back, you say, hey coach, thank you for following me back. Their DMs are opening, you're sending them something. And you always want to make sure whatever, like the last message you sent was powerful, or whatever, like that first part of that last message you sent is like grabbing, like a hook almost, because that's all they're going to see when they look at it. So if your last message was a link, they're not just going to click on a link. So I definitely say Twitter is one of the biggest things. And if there's a school you really want, call them, reach out, go to the school. I feel like that was an important one for me, was going to the school for Tarleton. And then becoming friends with other players, because everyone's helping each other. Repost other players' things, follow them. Like, you reposting another player's thing isn't going to take anything away from you. And make sure you're posting about yourself too, but like reposting some player getting work or doing something like that, like your teammate or whatever, like somebody getting an offer. And it's also helpful because then you have those friends. Like, you're not always gonna have those relationships at your school, and people aren't always gonna know, like your normal friends aren't really gonna know how all that stuff works and all that, but you can talk to them and be like, oh yeah, my school's like this is how our recruiting stuff is. It kind of help them.
Love that. Okay, good. Can you describe a challenge that you faced during the recruiting process, like on your path to earning a scholarship?
I guess you had to have a lot of patience. That was a big challenge, is having patience. You'll have your hot days where it's like every single coach is messaging you. You following from all these different coaches, like you have all this stuff, you have this traction, and then it's like 2 days later, none. And
Yeah.
so, which wasn't you. If you're reaching out and doing your stuff, like whatever, you always have coaches reaching out to you every day. But sometimes you like, am I doing something wrong now, or did I do something wrong? You kind of go back and think, and I guess that's the hard part, is like second guessing yourself. It's a big obstacle. It's also easy to get caught up in like, oh, Twitter's working, I'm only getting messages on Twitter, and straying away from the emails and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where like you need to stay on top of that too, because like at the school I'm committed to, Tarleton, one of our coaches, he doesn't really communicate on phone. He's an older guy. He only really communicates on email. He doesn't communicate on Twitter or anything. I reached out to him multiple times on Twitter and I was like, not getting a response. Reached out to him on email and I get a response.
So the importance of hitting and using
every angle.
So important.
It's even useful to never have a bad relationship with coaches, even if it's a small school that reaches out to you or something like that. Like, I don't know, I felt like at first I was kind of like, it doesn't matter, like I have these bigger offers, like I don't need to pay attention to that. But one of those coaches I was talking to ended up from one of those smaller schools. While I was talking to him in the recruiting things, I was just like, oh, I'll talk to him, whatever, like smaller school. But like, I'll talk to him, like keep my options open. And he ended up getting picked up by a D1 2 weeks after I'd started talking to him. He was coming from a D2. So it's just like stuff like that. Like you just want to keep a good relationship with people, I guess.
Yeah.
Like
Totally.
always keep responding, like don't get lazy.
Love it. Can you just quick share your story of making the decision that you were going to go to Tarleton, and then you got an offer from Lamar, but you knew you should have had more. And so just share the story.
So I guess it was probably getting closer to signing day, and they'd already had early signing day. So this was the normal signing day, and really had picked up a couple D2 offers, D3 NAIAs, and then I had gotten one Division 1 offer to Lamar, and I knew I wanted more than that. Like Lamar's a good school, love Lamar. I ended up going on a visit, love the coaches, great program. I think they're gonna run the Southland this year, and they're definitely gonna be dominant in FCS. But so like something about Tarleton had just been like calling to me, so kept reaching out to them, and hadn't really heard a response. And then to talk to Richie, basically asked him what to do, and he's just like, it's like you're running out of time, like you have to go. And so I decided to talk to my parents, decided to go up. I ended up waking up the next morning, like I think it was like 3 a.m, so far away from San Antonio. It's up in Steamville, it's like an hour south of Fort Worth. So we drove all the way up there, got a box of donuts to give to the coach, walking around the field, like trying to figure out like where the coach's office was, like driving around. And I see a player walking this area, and I was like, hey, like, is this the coach's office? And he was like, or the football office? And he was like, yeah. And so I walk in the door with him, and he's like, the coach's offices are that way. Like, I don't know who you're looking for, but they're that way. And so I walk in and I barge in, and I was just into some dude's office, and I was like, basically like wave, like hello, and like just keep walking. And I go and sit in the lobby. First I talked to the people at the desk, and I'm like, hey, like, I'm looking for Coach Head. Like, I brought him this box of donuts. I was wondering if you could get a moment to talk to me. And they're like, okay. So he comes out, and he's basically like, hey, what do you need? I'm busy. He's a lot going on. He was just in a meeting. And so he's basically like, who's this kid? I hand him the box of donuts. He's like, hey, like, I brought these for you. Would you mind taking a moment to look at my film? And he was like, oh yeah, like sure. And we started watching it, and then his eyes kind of light up, and he like goes into full robot recruiter mode, and is like, give me 1 sec, I'll be right back. And so beforehand he was like, oh, fill out this form. And I was like, oh, I felt like he was already blowing me off. And he goes into the back, and that coach whose office I'd barged into happened to be the defensive line coach. And so they come out and basically bring me out, and they're like, hey, why don't you come back here? And they bring me into their film room, which was newly redone. Very, very nice new film room. So we go into the film room, and we sit down, and they offered me. I was pretty shocked.
You had spent a lot of time doing a bunch of work leading up to that to prepare.
Yeah, it's like we'd been game planning.
How many times did you role play it and talk through it and have the confidence to be like, I could totally do this?
I think I called you the night before, and then driving up, I think I called you too. And then I called you right after, I remember. Knowing exactly what to say and all that stuff and saying the right things. I don't know, it didn't really hit me until that night. And I was just like, man, like that's crazy. I don't know, I guess it took me like a week or so to actually process it, I guess.
Because you called me right after.
Yeah, I called you right after, and I was just like, yeah, this happened.
Okay. Obviously, like when you were starting the recruiting journey, what inspired you or influenced you to say, you know what, I want to work with Richie and have him mentor me through this process?
Well, my mom brought it to me, and she was like, there's this thing, and I was like, okay. And so I'd gone to the web seminar. Both my siblings are Division I athletes. Like, we've seen all the recruiting services, all of the different stuff. Like, you see the recruiting services or like stuff like that. I wouldn't even call this a recruiting service, but you see the recruiting things and you're just like, we ignore them at least. And so kind of caught my mom's eye, and so that's why I was like, okay, like if it's catching her eye, like this is definitely like something I should look into. So then we went to the web seminar, and I was just like this seems pretty solid. Like it's stuff like we needed, and so that's what we were looking for. And so we found you, and then it was more like, oh, he knows how this works. Like he played in college, like he's done this. This is something like we should look into. So then we talked to you. I was also trying to see if it was realistic of me going D1, because like my siblings obviously are Division I, but like that doesn't mean anything. I want to know if it's realistic. And so you taking a look at my stuff, you're like, it's realistic. And I was like, cool. And then you kind of walked me through like the platform and all the lessons and stuff. And I was like, oh, this is like exactly what I need, like how to reach out to coaches, what to say. And so I was like, this isn't like other people that like reach out for you, like or do stuff, or like there's like a basic format, they send 1,000 emails to random code. Like it isn't like it can work, but like it doesn't. And so this really helps like you learn how to do it and like learn how to problem solve and do different stuff and like become like you don't only gain like scholarships and stuff like recruitment knowledge through it, like you become a businessman. And so like I come from a business family, I already know a lot of business and like a lot of stuff, so I kind of like a jump ahead in that aspect. But actually being able to like put into words and see how you talk to certain people and do things like that, it's definitely something helpful from the process.
I freaking love that, bro. I love that, man. Where do you feel like you've grown the most in the past, like 8 months or whatever? Where do you feel like you've grown the most going through this? Because it's a lot, dude. Like I know it's like
it definitely is a lot. I would definitely say patience. Like patience is, you definitely have a lot of patience. And then just like the grit to like do it, to get through the levels, to like take the time to do that. Yeah, definitely having patience and then not procrastinating.
Yeah. Love that, man. Love it. When you said it wasn't recruiting service, what did you mean by that? Because it's not, but a lot of people do think that's what it is.
It's not just a recruiting service. I feel like a recruiting service is like you go in and they're supposed to like get you offers. I feel like it kind of goes with the old parable where it's you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. You teach a man to fish, he'll be fed forever. Like he'll feed himself forever. So I feel like it kind of goes with that. Like it's not just getting you the stuff like that. No person's just gonna get you offers. It's about learning how to put yourself out there. Like learning how to display yourself, I guess.
Yes.
That's what it is. It's not like a recruiting service. It's not like just applied to football. Like I already have my offer, I'm already committed, and like the stuff I've learned is going to help me with like NIL stuff. I've talked to people in business my whole life with my family and stuff, but like actually like talking to people you don't already know or like you're not being introduced to and stuff like that, like that's a whole different thing.
Cold
Yes.
Cold sales. My last question for you, man. What would you say to like aspiring, sophomores, juniors that are thinking about working with me, but we're in your shoes, right? They're like, I'm unsure. I don't really know Richie yet. I don't know if it's legit. What would you say to them?
Funny enough, I actually had a kid reach out to me on, I think it was Twitter, and he was asking me, he was like, hey, like I'm thinking about next play. What do you think about it? And I was like, dude, absolutely do it. Like I can show whatever this stuff from this, man. Like it's a good platform. I was like, you definitely have to like go through the course and take all of it in, and then do everything, and then see what's working for you. And as I was like, stuff that wasn't working for me was working for other kids too. Mm-hmm. And so like I don't know, anybody that's thinking to do you, I mean like I'll like do it. You learn a lot more than just how to get recruited.
Yeah.
It helps you build a brand, like build yourself. You're definitely held accountable on all your stuff. I mean, there's weekly calls, there's weekly forms you have to fill out. There's like a win for the week, which is something we do. You have to fill out your next play, which is what you're doing next week. There's always the next play. And then what you did that week, what you're doing next week, and then like what you're doing to get better. They're making sure you're doing conditioning. They want proof. Like they're not just asking you. Like you have to actually submit stuff, like showing them.
Yeah.
And so at first I was like, oh, like that's kind of annoying or whatever. I have to fill out this form. But like, if you don't, it gets hard to stay focused if you're not doing the work.
100%. It's awesome. Narci, man, it's been an absolute pleasure to work with you, man. You're the, like, when I set out to say, hey, I'm gonna work with high school players that want to get to the next level, that I know what it feels like and I was in their shoes, you're the guy. So it's been awesome working with you, man, and I'm so excited to watch what happens over the next 4 to 5 years, because there's a lot of opportunity ahead of you, man, and I'm not just saying that. Like, I'm super excited for you, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You got it, brother. All right, thanks, man.
All right. Bye, Richie. Have a great night.